welcomed Sharon Gafka to Talking Pints.
Thank you.
Welcome to the programme. And I have to say, you're the first person that I've had on this programme to opt for a pint of white wine. We don't normally criticise our guest drinks, but what's the reason behind that?
So this is a running joke between some of my ex-colleagues and I. On the original date of Brexit, I thought it'd be really nice to get my team to the pub because it's been a stressful few months. Because there was protests going on. They had no wine glasses. It was plastic cups. So I've been drinking wine out of a pint glass. And I thought I was big, keeping up with all the boys, but obviously wine is significantly stronger than beer.
Yes.
And the night went downhill very quickly. So, yeah, this is the running joke.
And Department for exiting the EU, and without wishing for you to betray your former colleagues, it seemed to me that almost every civil servant I met believed in Remain, and they were vehemently opposed to Brexit. Am I right to think that?
I mean, you are to ask me that. I'm very much a Remainer. And I know that's something we disagree on, but yeah, so I'm very much pro-European.
Still?
Still very much
pro-European. So you're a rejoiner?
Yeah, I'm 100% down as a rejoiner.
Yeah, well, no wonder you're in the civil service. and what about them? And what about some of these civil service departments? Only 25% of the Department for Education back in Whitehall. That can't be right, can it?
Are you asking about post-COVID?
Well, I'm just saying, yeah. I mean, most people are back in offices, and the civil service seem very reluctant.
I mean, I can't speak, obviously, now because I'm not in it, but I don't think there's a reluctance. I think maybe because, I don't know. I honestly can't give you an answer to that.
No, I'm just shocked by it. But look, the thing is, you were doing that job, Department for exiting the EU, as a Remainer, under a Remainer Prime Minister. No wonder it all went wrong and took so long. But how did Love Island come along, the opportunity?
Love Island actually started off as a bit of a running joke between my friends and I. Working in Westminster, I was living my best life, and all my friends had settled down. So we just thought, it'd be a bit of a running joke to get me on there. I'd be very different to any other contestant that's been on there before. And the joke kind of got a bit too far. And, I got a phone call saying 3 weeks later, you're flying to Mallorca and you're going to go into the opening lineup of the show. And
the show is a sensational success. I mean, the numbers that watch it, the number... I know the number of young girls that watch it, and just desperately, their dream would be to be on Love Island. What was it like as an experience?
I find it strange that it's people's dreams to be on that show. Because for me, it wasn't my dream.
No.
It was a running joke between my friends and I think it was what I expected it to be. There's a lot of direction from producers and things like that. But it's a group of good-looking people in a villa all summer. So what is there to expect? To be honest,
Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it. I think I missed out on girls' holidays when I left sixth form because my mum was ill and I went to Westminster and went to work straight away. So I felt like I missed out on that experience. So for me, it was like reliving 18-year-old Sharon a couple of years down the line.
And did you prove that intelligent people too go on Love Island?
A lot of intelligent people have been on Love Island.
All right.
Maybe I'm just a bit more. I think some of the intelligent women that have been on there before are a bit more softly spoken than I am, and probably not as opinionated as I am. So that's probably where I'm a little bit different.
Yeah, and people who've been on Love Island, they tend to get involved in all sorts of celeb-y type things afterwards. Some of them very successfully, some of them not. But you've kind of got involved with campaigning in many ways. Now, anyone in the modern world that puts their head over the parapet, whether it's doing Love Island, being in politics, whatever it is, can expect on social media a certain level of abuse. I think it's impossible to think that you're not going to get some level of abuse. But just explain what happened to you.
The producers do very well in kind of telling you, setting your expectations that there will be some level of trolling. And I think that's why they put a lot of psychological, I wouldn't say lack of better word, tests to check that you're going to be able to handle it because of how big the show is. For me, I experienced a lot of racial abuse. Things that were aired on the show that were outside of my control. I received a lot of abuse for that and, a lot of death threats. I think that's one thing that I didn't necessarily expect from the show.
And what was the means of this? Were these through tweets or Facebook posts, or how was it done?
So, I don't really use Facebook, but I did see some Facebook posts about me about previous jobs that I've had when I was younger.
Yeah.
Most of it came through Instagram DMs. A lot of it, I think 95% of it came through Instagram DMs. Yeah.
And how did it affect you?
You know, you have your ups and downs. I think now, if I was to get a similar kind of message, I would just brush it off because I think I'm so like numb and used to it. But I think at the time, especially with COVID going on, you know, with travel restrictions and rules, I had to sit in quarantine for 5 days. I live on my own. So when you spend 5 days in complete solidarity, all you have is to look at your phone.
And you're reading this stuff.
Yeah, and I'm reading every single message, everybody's opinions about me. And I think that's what was really, really hard. And then, you know, it's not just like, you know, with people that aren't in the public eye, it's just a message. But then you have press and media on top adding to it. Like, I think I got one comment on a photo calling me a catfish, and all of a sudden it was big, widespread on the Sun website that I was a catfish in terms of my photos. So, yeah, it's not just people, it's also the added pressure of media as well.
Now, Nadine Dorries is talking and pushing very hard for this, you know, online harms bill. And it's very tough, isn't it, to know where do you draw the limits on this stuff? Because, you know, free speech is obviously very, very important. A little bit of abuse is probably acceptable in the real world because it is the real world and people aren't perfect. It's very hard to legislate, isn't it, for this? And very hard. I mean, you know, these social media companies that we're talking about here, the names that we've mentioned so far, and there are others, TikTok, I know you're very active on that as well. I mean, these are just the most enormous companies. There are billions of people using these platforms. You know, what should government do? Where do you see the line, Sharon, on this, in terms of what the law should do?
I mean, I expected you to be an avid argument of the free speech side.
No, I am, but I absolutely
that.
am. And I do generally take the view sticks and stones may break my bones, and I think we have to learn to live with a bit of abuse, but I also accept that, you know, persistent, large-scale, frankly, bullying of people online is going to do them a lot of harm. So,
yeah,
so,
I mean...
So I get that, you know.
Yeah, with all due respect, Nigel, you know, I very much work with young women's charities. My focus is on protection of young people and young women, especially on the internet. There is a very fine line between criticism and abuse. I'm open to people criticising my actions and things like that. When you send me death threats, I've received voice notes from teenage boys telling me they're going to kill me. Yeah. That's very much no freedom of speech whatsoever. Yeah. And also, you know, one thing that I really do care about this online safety bill is that cyber flashing is now made illegal. You know, as part of the bill, I receive probably on average 2 unsolicited photos a day. That's not freedom of speech to anyone.
No, sure.
And, you know, if somebody walking down the street took their trousers off, they'd be arrested. But why is it OK to do that to me on social media? And, you know, the sanctions that I think the Online Safety Harms Bill put in place is that it puts financial sanctions onto big corporations that don't follow their own guidelines. You know, if I report something to Instagram, to TikTok, does it really get picked up? Not really.
I don't know. They're so big,
it doesn't.
Firms.
It's a plaster put on a big wound, to be honest, and that's how I see it. You know, my season of Love Island was part of the Instagram trial where words were filtered. Words weren't really filtered, not in my experience anyway, otherwise I wouldn't see half the stuff I saw. No,
listen, you obviously care very much about it, and I understand it. No, I get it. There are limits to free speech, of course there are, and incitement, violence, all of those things are beyond the pale. And the other campaign, Sharon, that you got yourself involved in, which is just beyond my comprehension and thinking, is this whole business of the spiking of girls' drinks. But then that's gone even a stage further now, too. And I've read about reports of nightclubs of people actually being jabbed with syringes. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I think that's why, like, my campaign is so important, because a lot of people that I've met and spoken to that have been running campaigns on this for almost 20 years have mainly focused on stopping drink spiking, you know, like putting drink covers on drinks and things. And I think it's actually not tackling the problem, it's just skirting around the bush. And that's why we're seeing increasing numbers of injectable spiking. So
it's just beyond comprehension.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, one thing that's why I'm so passionate about online safety is because I talk about very passionately about spiking, about police prevention in spiking and things like that on social media. And I get a lot of young men commenting back saying, I don't know how to take a joke. I have no sense of humour. I'm sorry, but this is not funny.
Really?
Yeah, all of the time. And I think one of the things I went to David Johnson about was the lack of education on drugs and, you know, consent in terms of sex education. You know, 10 years ago, I was sat in a classroom learning about this, and I'm getting inundated with messages from boys and girls 10 years later, and they're still not having it. And, you know, it's constantly in the news about drugs, about sex. Like, why are we not educating? You know, these these beliefs are taught and learned and not things
Is this sick behaviour a product of the internet?
It could be. I think that there is a part to play in like what porn is available and things like that. And I think it's very much, targeted towards violent intercourse towards women. And I think that, that's where people start to see these things and like learn these traits.
But I mean, to spike a drink or to inject somebody, I mean, this is to remove their ability to consent, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's not just about sex. It's also about, I've had 1,500 testimonies when I put out a request on social media because I wanted to write a formal piece of evidence to the Home Affairs Committee. It was a variety of different reasons, 14 to 65, male and female, not just for sex or for assault or theft. It was, their friends putting a drug in their drinks. They thought it was funny. And I think that, for me as well, I really want a solid piece of legislation that covers that because these victims aren't protected. When you go to a hospital, if I put something in your drinks, I think it's a joke. You're not protected in the eyes of the law, really, are you? And so that's why I think it needs to be really more proactive and we really need to tackle at the early ages as opposed to starting when it's too late.
You've clearly got the campaigning bit very firmly between your teeth. You're very passionate about it. So what next for Sharon Gafker? Is it politics? Is it heading up big campaigns? It's not going back to the civil service, clearly.
I would really much love to see myself as a Member of Parliament one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely see that as where my career is going or some kind of investigative journalism. But yeah, I think definitely not standard influencer or things that you see from Love Islanders.
Well, I can tell you what, Sharon, I think you've got every chance of becoming an MP. I can spot them a mile off. No, but I can. I can see bright young people who are going to do that if that's what they want to do. You'll find that it's a job you could earn a lot more money in the private sector, but that's not why you go into it. The right reason to go into it is because you actually want to change things. It's not because you want rank and position and title. It's because you actually want to change things and you have passions. And you'll get even more online hatred and abuse, probably as a Member of Parliament. But I think it's great. I think the way you've used that bit of celebrity in Love Island and you've used that to get out there and campaign for things that you care about and things that really matter. And I have to say, I think it is actually pretty horrific and pretty sick what some, not all, but what some young women are being put through. So I want to thank you for joining me on Talking Pints and commend you and wish you luck with your campaign.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.